I'm not an athlete, and I never set out to be a runner. But this marathon, for me, is about so much more than just running. It feels like you are being pushed towards where you want to go, while also being pulled back by reality. My name is Safa. I was born in Moscow from a Georgian mother and a Syrian father. I always lived in big cities. I lived in Moscow, Damascus, and then I grew up in New York. And then I went to Dubai. I studied community health because I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. But life has a funny way of taking you down unexpected paths. And I found myself becoming a content creator, sharing my love for fashion and beauty with millions of you.
Taking on a marathon is not a small task. In my first meeting with Safa, I really tried to get that across. You know, a marathon it's a huge accomplishment. I get like chills when I talk about it. Finishing a marathon is not something a lot of people ever do. And the fact that she's taken the step to take on the challenge is already a huge thing. 42 kilometers is a long way. So we've got about 15 weeks. Well, we had about 15 weeks when we started until her race.
So this morning was really nice. We got super lucky with the weather. It's a bit windy, so it gave it a breathe. It's amazing every time you finish your run. So accomplishment. I'm happy to now have running part of my lifestyle. Honestly, it makes you feel much better. The time flies by and can actually enjoy my run for a bit. Process the whole process, and you need to go through it.
Let's have a look at your running today. So here's your first contact. So nice forefoot, you're not landing on your heel, which is good. And then you in a nice knee angle there. So the load is good through the knee. Okay. And your hips coming through nicely. And then another good stride. So what things we wouldn't be worried about here is if you were landing too far back or too far on your toes. So that's pretty good. Main purpose of doing an assessment is actually just to get a gauge of how she moves and to see if there's any potential injury risks just naturally in how she moves. So obviously she's training for running, but strength will be very important in that process in terms of injury prevention, particularly as a new runner. The risk of injury is high. So our main goal is making sure that doesn't happen.
Honestly, it's to challenge myself in a sense where you discipline yourself. And I realize just how little people actually know about these kinds of health issues. I want to change that. If sharing my story and running this race can help even one person to take their health seriously or recognize symptoms early, it's all worth it. I lost my dad for brain aneurysm. It's really difficult because when I remember kind of seeing his face, it was really scary because now I understand how painful it is. They say it's the worst pain any person can feel. And then when he went through the surgery, he kept looking at me and he was telling me, I'm not sure if he felt it, but he was like, I think this is the end of my life. And I'm like, no, Dad, you don't say that. And that's when we realized that all of the family needs to do screening for brain aneurysm. And I did last year, and that's when I found out that I have a brain aneurysm. After this surgery, we done the surgery in November. Now it's been almost 8 months since the surgery. Almost a year ago, everything changed. I faced a health crisis, a brain aneurysm. It's one of those things you never expect to happen to you. It was terrifying, but it also gave me a new sense of purpose. I realized that my story could help others, that I could use my voice to raise awareness about the brain health and making a real impact. Honestly, I am trying to spread awareness about the brain aneurysm. A lot of people might think this is, it is a life-threatening condition. However, I want to show that you still can do whatever you want in life. You still can challenge yourself and do extreme things, physical and emotional. And that was something I wanted to celebrate on exactly 1 year from my surgery. So in November, it would be 1 year since I've done the brain aneurysm surgery. So it would be a good way to celebrate that month.
I mean, it's short. I don't think if you speak to a lot of people who've run marathons, they might be a bit like, jeepers, okay, that's not a long time. It's possible. It's definitely not something that's impossible to do. We've been quite honest about the process with her, and she knows that this is about finishing the marathon. We're not aiming for like an incredible time or anything like that. In the sense, I think anyone who does their first marathon, the goal should be finishing it. But also just with the time frame that we have. Running is one of those things that you develop over years of running. So the longer you run, the more you can run, the more fitness you develop. But we don't have that. So we're going to do what we can in this time, which is enough if we can nail it. So basically, we just need to be very consistent with the plan and get her to the start line healthy, and then we'll be good.
So here I am, training for the marathon. Not because I love running, but because I want to show what's possible.